Was it better the second time? How many people are here tonight from last night? So about a third of the audience. That's interesting. Maybe we have a Rocky Horror Picture of documentaries here. We're going to start throwing things at the screen on Midnight Madness.
But we do have another screen of it tomorrow at 3:30.
Oh, we do? Hey, there you go!
Right here.
Time's a charm.
Jared, what's going to happen when being paid for the previous albums? Are you still into litigation with that, with the new
Artifact Part 2. That's what it is. It's the sequel. It's never ending. You know, it is crazy to see those title cards at the end, even for me, although I made the film, to see that after all of this, we're still not only we'll never be paid, but we're actually still in debt. And that's just the way that the business is set up to work. It's an incredibly cost-intensive business. That's the way they have it set up. So it's far from perfect. And if we're this far in the hole with a better deal, you can imagine how bad things were before. But that's another part of the journey, and we'll see what happens. Sometimes Tom elects a day off for 4. So you gotta talk to him. You know, I think that I was handling a lot of the day in, day out business in the battle. So you see a lot of that. They weren't on those phone calls. I didn't want them to be on the phone calls, and they really, really didn't want to be on those phone calls. So that's just the way that it happened. You know, Shannon doesn't really like to be in front of the camera or to talk that much. He prefers to play the drums, and that's just the way that it is. You know, a lot of times I have to drag them kicking and screaming to do press and promo and things. They just, you know, it's not their thing. So sometimes I think people are like, well, why don't they? We want to see them more. You know, feel free to tell them that. I'd love for them to do more as well. No, it's just the way that it was. We have very little. I told Shannon when I was sitting with Shannon last night, a lot of you guys saw us sitting next to each other, which was funny to sit next to each other when the fight scene came on. We always laugh about now, but I told him that it was surprising how much he ended up in the movie, because oftentimes we were filming and he would ask us to stop. He didn't want the cameras rolling, so we'd stop rolling and I'd kind of say, hey man, let's keep the cameras rolling if we can. And I didn't want to. But he ended up in a lot in the film, which I'm glad, because he's great in the film. He's great on camera, and so is Tomo. So you know, we'll keep encouraging them to show their faces more.
Got a question there on the end. The question is about Vert, a company that you're behind, and how does that going to change things?
Well, I think it changes things pretty dramatically. It gives us an opportunity and other artists an opportunity to have a conversation and a relationship directly with audiences. So it takes out some of the friction in terms of a third party who may try to get in between that relationship to maybe be of service, maybe to take some of that revenue, and then to waste it on things that doesn't need to be wasted on anymore. So that's what technology should do. It should get rid of friction. It should provide solutions. And I think that, you know, Artifact will very likely have a Vert release as well, where we can play the film live in a social way, share it with each other in a way that's really exciting and interactive, and not just have a typical broadcast or a download that's online, but have it be more engaging and more about sharing it with your friends. So I think that technology will provide a lot of solutions. At least I hope so.
This woman has had her hand up in the book.
Commerce, there'll always be an uneasy relationship between the two. And, you know, like I said last night for the record, I'm not anti-company or anti-record label. I'm anti-greed and I'm anti-corruption and pro-fairness. I think that, you know, there's not something so bad about people paying for something. And I see it online sometimes. People are like, why isn't Vert free? Or why isn't this free? you know, it's not free because it would be shit if it was free. Things that are free aren't always the best things. I don't know when the last time you had a free meal at a restaurant and it was any good. But that's the thing. I mean, there is a great side of money. When you pay for something, you're saying this is the value that I perceive this good or service to have. And that's wonderful, you know. I work on something over here and you work on something over here and we exchange it. You know, money has been this a way to get rid of the friction of me bringing a cow over to your house and trading it for a big block of cheese that I put in my garage for 6 months. So yeah, I'd much rather give you a couple of dollars instead of a slice of cheese. So weird analogy, or is that bad? I don't. Or cow. These people.
Let's get a question from the balcony, right there in the first row on the balcony.
Given the fact that you had already had success in Hollywood when you signed this deal, did you sign a particularly shitty deal or did you sign a common deal? And what
They punished me, made me sign an even worse one because I had made some films.
who was funding your recording and the documentary at the time? Was it strictly from your Hollywood efforts?
Good question. I mean, he asked, did I sign a particularly worse deal because I had already had some success in Hollywood, and who funded This Is War? We did. We took what little money that we made from the road, from merchandise, and we put it into the making of, we put it into the film and into hiring Flood and building our own studio. So like Tomo says in the film, we took that little bit of money. It was a very little bit of money, and then invested it in ourselves. It was in hindsight a really it was the right thing to do, but you know, scary at times.
This woman in red has her hand up.
Sure.
So my question is, going through everything that you've gone through, obviously, putting together Artifact and amazing tour, what advice would you give not only yourself, but your crew that you work with, who's amazing, but yourself, your crew, Tomo, and Shannon from day one, that everything started?
What do you mean?
Like, going back to, like, I guess, where the film started with the tour footage,
Yeah.
and going back to, the years,
Sure.
like,
What advice would I give my earlier self?
your
My inner
earlier
child?
self,
If you could do it all over again.
Yeah.
well, not would you do it all over again, just what advice would you give yourself, the crew, Shannon and Tomo, to, I guess, kind of ease the stress of everything, because there were some really stressful times that kind of.
Yeah. It was a very challenging time. We're working on a new album now, and I'll tell you, bye guys. See you later. Yeah, I know, priorities. Gotta get over to Second Cup and get a. You know. That's how you know.
The film festival.
You know, that's how you know. I'm just gonna let a little moment pass here to reset. So I'm working on a new album right now. That's what I was talking about. You hear me? You know what I'm saying? So a new album. And it's a lot more fun to make a record when you're not being sued for $30 million. So that's kind of an answer to your question. We're actually having a great time in the studio. It's not a dubstep record, but it's a very different record, really fun. Thank you. Yeah, we had a great time. It's the wildest outfit I've seen you in yet. Huh? Oh, I didn't need to. So the question, influence. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that I've been very vocal about my influences, whether it's great films like The Last Emperor or Kubrick. You know, I've stolen quite shamelessly from a lot of these guys and paid tribute to them, whether it was in The Kill or in From Yesterday. But but you know, I get inspired a lot by visual art as well. But the great filmmakers of the 70s really probably influenced me the most. The Scorsese's, the Coppolas, and beyond.
Okay, we have time for a couple more questions.
So while you're making This Is War, you obviously didn't have like the record company's management and like promotion and stuff like that. Is that why you created a Hive to kind of promote This Is War after you guys recorded it?
Yeah. So why did we create the Hive? Yeah, we created the Hive so we didn't have to rely, or depend upon a system that was antiquated, especially at the time, broken and unreliable. That's why we did it, so that we had some autonomy, that we could do things creatively, so that we could do things that were exciting and immediate. You know, at that time, when we started the Hive, really, it was very hard to get things done and get things done in a timely way, in a very forward-thinking way. So it's evolved a lot, the Hive, and you know, we've had a lot of success with it. We're able to share a ton of content online with everybody all the time, and we know it's never enough, but we'll continue to try to share as much as we can. Any other question about Artifact that anybody here? What about, is there anybody here from the film festival that wasn't 30 seconds, that didn't come here just for 30 Seconds to Mars, that came here for the film, that has a question?
Okay, how about way in the back?
Somebody, yeah, that guy waving your hand, yeah. It's a good question. Do I own the film, or does EMI own the film? And it's a really, I do proudly say that I own the film. And I can't tell you what a battle it was to own the film. We included one scene on the mountaintop when I'm talking to Irving and Peter Paterno, and there's this revelation that EMI has found out about the film, and now they want to own the film. Which is ridiculous because they had nothing to do with the film. Why should they have any right to own it at all? And then they said, okay, well, if you're going to own the film, we own all the music in the film, which is bizarre, but they still have some ownership of the music that's in the film. And I thought I made that point pretty clearly when I play the piano and I say to Tomo, it's not yours, it's not mine. We don't own it, so that's still a battle that we have to fight. But we're going to work out a release strategy and figure out the best way to share the movie. Do we put it in theaters? Do we put it on Vert? Do we, you know, bring it on tour and or just put it on iTunes and Netflix? But we'll get it out there where you're here to share it with people. Yes, you in the middle with the shape.
This is the last question, then we have to wrap up, and you guys have to go vote for this film. So
Oh, yeah.
whoever Jared called on.
Yeah.
What is the best way that for medium, merchandise, or whatever, to support a band?
What's the best way to knowing all this? How do you support a band without feeling dirty? Well, I think that you can't separate the theft or people downloading music illegally with the feelings that people have about the record business. Not everybody has a bad feeling. Not everybody knows about the record business, but there's certainly not a lot of love out there. And I do think that plays a role. I think that if people knew there was a company and people had a lot of support for that company, Vert, I think, is a good example of this. People have a lot of love for Vert, and they've had great experience with it, although not perfect yet. It's been a really, people understand that we're trying to do something there that's different and special, so they support it in kind, and they're not everybody's out just stealing and propagating that material. But the best way to support as an artist is directly. Buy a ticket, buy a t-shirt, buy the album, if you can't afford it, steal it, or steal it if you like it, buy it. I mean, whatever makes you sleep well at night. I don't really care. I don't get in the middle of that debate. I'm happy if people, if given the choice, if you're going to steal my album and listen to it, or not listen at all, steal it and listen to it, of course. If you want to buy it, I guess buy it. I'm never going to see the money anyway. So, Do I? You steal it and give me the money. How about that?
Right, so we do have to wrap this up. I want to remind you to vote. It's an election.